Yo, 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 it's Antoine. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Let me make sure that I have what I need set up. If you're going to come and hang out, let me know that you're here. Let me fix some stuff real quick before I get started so that I can make sure that I can see your comments. Oh, shoot, wrong button. Here we go. Just a second. Yeah, if you're gonna hang out today, today is my Wednesday talk. I'm on about an hour earlier than I normally come on because I got some other stuff going on, and I think that's it. But anywho, let me know that you are here. I'm going to talk to you. Woo! It's going to be exciting. Comment, let me know that you're here so I can say hello to you. Even if you don't plan on staying, I at least want to say hello to you. I want to know that you're here. I want to greet you. And then if you got a dip, you got a dip. But we're going to talk about relationship goals and holes with the L, holes. The holes in our relationship goals. So I'm kind of excited about this topic. It's a exciting topic, but it's also a topic where you'd be like, whoa, it can get heavy. So if you can hear me, just place an emoji in the chat. If you can hear me, place an emoji in the chat. If you can see me, place an emoji in the chat. And let's talk about it. So relationship goals and the holes. So I've come to the realization that occasionally when it comes to relationships, uh, I used to think, hey, Gloria, thanks for hanging out. Uh, I've always considered relationships like a boat ride or ship ride relationship. So I've always thought about being in a ship, and in this ship, you can only there's some limitations to being in the ship. One, you can only go one direction at a time in the ship. That's one of the limitations. You in the ship, you can't go. What's good, friend? Hey, Jen. What's good, Chris? Thanks for hanging out, bro. The ship. So in a relationship, consider yourself being in this ship. It's you and this other person in this ship, and y'all have a destination. You've maybe charted out some territory. You've put on the map where you're going. Like you're like, hey, we're about to go to the Bahamas, and we're both in this ship. And in that ship, you can only go one direction at a time. You have to work together to be able to get where you're going. But occasionally, there are holes in the ship. Now, if you ever get on a real ship and there's holes in it, make sure you can swim. If you don't know how to swim, just try to get you a life jacket. But anywho, if you are single, what I need you to do is I need you to place the word single in the chat. If you're single, place the word single in the chat. If you are in a relationship, you can put in a relationship or married, whatever, put your status how you identify it, because we're going to talk about the ship, and I'm going to have some transparent moments where hopefully what I share will help you as it helps me. So getting in the ship, relationship goals in its simplest form says I want to be in a ship with someone that I can relate to so that we can get where we're trying to go. Now, once you're in this ship, in this relationship, trying to go where you're going to go, you will run into times where there's storms. There are the waters can be shaky. Depending on how long this trip is, you may need a certain amount of food. You may need some nourishment. You may need some comfort. There are a lot of things that you will need in your ship that you're relating in to get to a end goal or a location or a destination. So when you consider your situation, married, single, or otherwise, sometimes the ship has some turmoil. Sometimes the ship has some challenges. It has some holes. And when it has holes in it, with any ship that has holes in it, will find itself sinking. Many of us that are right here right now have been in situations, in relationships, in situationships, in entanglements, or whatever you want to call it. We've been in those, and there's been some holes in it. Now, when these holes arise, you have to at that moment determine, are we going to make it to where we're trying to go? Because we've agreed when we got in the ship that we were going to a certain place. And that certain place is still the destination, and we have to get there. So while we're in the ship, what has to happen when the holes happen? What has to happen? There's a song that says, I think there's a leak in this old building. How many of you can honestly say that you've been in a great relationship or even are in a great relationship now, and occasionally you notice holes in it? If you are in a relationship or have been in a relationship and you've experienced holes in the relationship, just put a H. Just post the H in the comments that you've experienced those holes. You know where you're trying to go, but something is holding you back. Now, the holes can be a number of different things. It can be your communication. It can be wanting to go different directions on things. It can be your baggage. Now, and I'll talk about the baggage in a minute, but this happens to every relationship, that there are moments where there's just some holes. And for me, I can only speak for me in this situation. Oftentimes, when there are holes in my situations, in my relationships, I am the one. I don't necessarily get the bucket. Let me get this bucket. I ain't the one that gets the bucket and like tries to throw the water out sometimes. Are you the one that tries to get the water out? And if you don't know what that means I see there's holes, but I have to patch up the holes. So first I need to start getting some of the water out. I need to control this, and then so that I can get to the hole. Are you one of the ones that takes the water and starts to get it out the boat? Because as soon as the hole comes in, you have it's going to end up being a sink or swim situation. But you got to get this bucket. I am the one, bro, sis. I am the one that sometimes be like, you know what? I'm gonna just go swim. I'm gonna get to my destination with you or without you, which is not a good thing, especially when you have committed to being in the ship, relating so that you can get to a destination. Sometimes the destination is to death do us part. Sometimes the destination is to build an empire, to build a legacy. But what happens is you have the people that dip the water out and patch the hole. Then you have the people that just jump ship. Which one are you? Do you get the water out or do you jump ship? Now, you have to be honest with yourself. I've been honest with me, and I've been honest with you, that I tend to I be jumping the ship. Like, I don't care how great you are. I don't care how amazing your smile is. Like, and even if I don't jump the ship physically, I may jump the ship mentally, which is just as bad. Which one are you? Go on and post it in. Are you the one that do you get the water out or do you jump ship? Because in a relationship, there will be holes. You will feel like it's a sink or swim. It's a what's the saying? It's a fight or flight. And all of us have had to make that decision in relationships. For me, I know that like I have to do better if I want to get to the destination of marriage, because I've had to confront myself and say, "Yo, like, hey, I am not perfect. I am flawed, and some of my flaws come from the fact that, like, yo, I want things to just be easy." And you may be like that, Gloria. You jumped the ship. We some ship jumpers. Like, hopefully we can swim, but we some ship jumpers. And you have to admit to yourself what you are, because when you admit to yourself what you are, you can start changing the course of your life. Now, if you're the one that dips the water out and tries to patch the hole, you also have to experience. You will sometimes experience a fatigue, Chris says, depending on the relationship, me and my wife, I will try. Anything else, I'm good without it. Anything else, I'm good without it. Yeah, like so for me, one of my biggest holes in relationships is I want it to be easy. And it's realistic. Like some of you have been in relationships that have been so tumultuous that you're like, I just want something that's easy. I don't want to go through all of this. We just gonna meet. It's gonna be good. We're gonna get in the ship. We're gonna relate, and we're gonna get to our destination. And the fact is, it won't always be easy. There will be storms. There will be sometimes getting off course. And the challenge is when you get in a relationship, when you get in this situation, you just want to get where you're going. But there's not many things where you just get into it and it just happens. Not from business, not from being a parent. You just don't be a parent one day and be like, hey, I got this. There's some trials and some errors that come with it. So when we talk about the holes in relationships, you first have to determine who you are. Am I the one that patches the holes and gets the water out of the ship when it's starting to flood? Or am I the one that jumps ship? Once you've determined that, then you can have the conversation with yourself as well as your significant other or whatever that says, hey, I be jumping ships. Not to say that I cheat or anything like that. You just say I'm jumping ship. Like if the time gets hard, if it gets rough, I'm jumping because I ain't got the time, I ain't got the energy. And the problem with that is you never get anything that sticks. Not Jason, James says it all takes work, effort, and time. And I think, for the married, so I have some married men on and some single women on. And the fact of the matter is, it does take work, but I think the older you get, the more tired. Like some of us, once you hit your 30s, you be like, bro, I'm close to retirement. I can't be working like I used to work. And you want to sometimes throw in the towel. You want to be able to say, you know what, if it ain't right out the bat, no. Now with that, you have to find, okay, so first we said you have to determine who you are. Then you have to be able to communicate that to, hey, my downfall is like I jump ships. Or my downfall is that I try to patch up everything, I try to fix every situation, and either extreme can cause issues. So what you have to do is you have to be real with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with other people. And you have to say, whatever is worth fighting for, whatever is worth patching up, I'm going to patch up, because I can't keep, like, for most of you may go to church, and we have this thing in church called church hoppers. Church hoppers are the same as relationship hoppers. Church hoppers are those people that when the pastor says something that they don't like, or when a member does something that's not in line with what they felt should have happened, they're like, well, I got to find another church. And then they go to another church and find that people are still doing the same things because they're human. So in your relationship, you have to say, wait, am I a relationship hopper? Am I a commitment hopper? Why do I keep jumping ship? And let's be clear. There are times where you got to jump ship and jump it fast. There are other times where you have to know if the person that you're in the ship with is an asset or a liability to your life. Because at the end of the day, we all need to be connected to assets. That's why God called it a help meet. And a lot of people say help mate, but it is not mate, by the way. It is help meet, MEET. So you have to figure out how to determine which thing to do, because if you are constantly jumping ship, you'll find yourself being unstable. You'll find yourself being off kilter. Or if you find yourself being the one that constantly patches up the holes to try to make something work that's drowning, you'll find yourself overworked. Okay, now here we go. How many of you feel like you are for the single people, how many of you feel like you're already on a retirement plan when it comes to relationship? You're like, if I'm in a relationship, cool. If I'm not, bro, like I ain't about to do all of this. Are you on a retirement plan? For the married people, what is one thing that you can share that has helped you to maintain a healthy marriage? What is one thing you can share that has helped you to maintain a healthy marriage? For the single people, uh, yeah, whatever my question was for the single people. And I'm gonna be heading off in a few minutes, so hopefully you will respond and give your feedback. But yeah, I have notoriously been a uh, a jumper, and I've jumped because I'm like, I I just want it to be right. And sometimes that desire to want it to be right ends up hindering you because nothing is going to be perfect. Nothing is going to be right all of the time. And then you have to have enough mental toughness and strength to say, I know that this relationship will have holes in it. I know that there will be some things that don't work for me. But as I've decided to patch up the holes in the relationship, I'm going to make sure that I communicate. I'm going to make sure that I am honest with myself. I'm going to make sure that I'm honest with other people. Chris says, discuss issues after the situation is calm. Oh, bro, that's some truth for you. Uh, that is some absolute truth. And and the challenge though, some people are the people that they need to communicate right then. They need to feel through it right then. While there are other people that's like, I need you to wait. I can't do this right now. And I have been, I think I have been, I think I've been the one that needs to talk about it right then. Uh, and I know why that is, but I think I've been the one that has to talk about it right then. Uh, are you that are listening? Are you a person that has to discuss the issues right then, or can you wait until later to the heat calms? James says biggest thing I can say is communication. You have to keep the communication channel open and be willing to work through the hard times. Uh, Jennifer says yes. Heat of the moment discussions can lead to points of no return. All of that's so accurate. And the thing is, I think to let stuff cool down is really amazing. Naya says that she has to discuss it right then. Uh, James says also try to see things the other person's point of view. Like so let's talk about this for a couple moments. So James says also try to see things from the other person's point of view. Uh, I think even with that, we have to have balance in seeing the other person's point of view. For me, I tend to be too forgiving at times because I always try to see the other person's perspective. Even like I may not agree with their perspective, but I'll listen to it and follow through. But occasionally I will give too much grace because of the other perspective. Like, yes, we're in a relationship. Yes, we're working through this. Yes, you have your point of view, but I've learned that you can't give in to every point of view every time because if you do, you end up uh, you end up creating an imbalance. You end up creating an imbalance. Jennifer says, "I think we need to be mindful of how we filter information too." Um, Jen, you got 3 minutes? And you ready? Um, filtering information. Hold on just a second. Copying. Let me do this real quick. All right, yeah. So, all right, Chris says, never belittle spouse in front of anyone. Yeah, I don't, I've never done that, but I think there are people that do that. It's like if you're going to be in a relationship, again, you can't be in a ship and go two different directions. So if you're belittling the person that you're with, uh, you end up creating a an emotional jumping. So earlier we talked about some people jump the ship, some people try to clean it up. When you belittle people and make them feel less than, you are slowly but surely creating an emotional divide, because relationships can be emotional, or relationships have a huge part of them that are emotional, and when you create the divide you end up really hurting the person you're with. All right, here we go. So Jennifer said earlier, I think we should be mindful of how we filter information too, and I want to talk to you about that in more detail. Check your text messages. um James says never go to bed mad at each other, bro. All right, so I hear you saying not to go to bed mad. I agree with you saying not to go to bed mad, but this is the problem. Earlier, we just said that some people, can't talk about it right then. Other people need to talk about it right away. Now, if you're in a relationship with a person and you're the one that needs to talk about it right away, and they're the person that wants to wait till it cools down, how do you deal with that? Y'all got to go to bed. But one person is fine because they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to talk about this later. The other person's like, no, I'm ready to talk about this now. But you're saying, don't go to bed mad. Is not going to bed mad a realistic thing? Is it possible to be in a relationship, have a difference? One person is ready to talk, the other person isn't ready to talk, but then you don't go to bed mad. Is that even realistic? James also says you have to compromise from both sides. I definitely believe in compromise, um, but I think when you're in a relationship, when you're in that mode, you have to choose to be a, a people that compromises from the jump. Because I have been in situations where I do most of the compromising, and when you do most of the compromising, you be like, yo, like I am not happy right now. All of this. All right. So Tarek says, um, that used to be me. Right then was a no-go, and she wanted to talk now. I had to learn to open up and talk about it. Yes, it's realistic, but doesn't happen. All right. What's good, friend?
Hey, friend.
How are you?
I'm good. How are
I
you
think the
doing?
last time we saw each other, we were on the live.
Yes, you're on my page last time.
Yes. And
Yeah.
now the favor is returned. All right. So the reason I brought you on, and here, everybody, this is Jennifer Benton. This is a really great friend of mine, one of my marketing besties, just all around awesome person. And I'm happy that she's here, because both of us are single. Both of us are probably exhausted. Both of us are probably like, whatever. So the last thing Tarek said was, so while you were transitioning in, we were talking about going to bed mad and not going to bed mad. Tarek says that this is realistic, and the way it happened for him is that he had to learn how to open up and talk about it then, even though he wasn't the one that talked about it then. And I'm like, bro, like if you have that where you talk about it now person, and that person is not, it's like somebody going to bed mad.
Right. That's true.
And then, all right, so let's go back to your statement. You said, I think we need to be mindful of how we filter information.
hmm
What does that mean
So,
to you?
to me, and I've learned this. Believe it or not, um, I've learned this more in the grieving process that I've been in.
Hmm.
Um, because my communicating something doesn't mean that the person hearing it hears the same thing. So
Yeah,
I've learned that people filter what you say through their experiences, through their uh, perceptions, so to speak. And the best way that I could describe it, and this actually came to me yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, this is good." Um,
I'm so happy you're here today because after you tell this story, I have something to say. All right, keep going.
so it's almost like if you say, "I don't like waffles,"
Hmm.
and all I've ever eaten for breakfast is waffles, then I'm going to take it as you saying, I don't like breakfast.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
really, You're not saying I don't like breakfast. You're saying I just don't like waffles. But because my experience is limited, I'm I'm taking that as a, an overall and end all, instead of just
Yeah.
understanding like, no, there's more things to breakfast, like bacon and eggs and toast, oatmeal,
Yeah.
grits, you
And
know.
and I, and this is exactly what you said because I've had that experience. It's like a person says, "I don't like waffles,"
Mhm.
and in your mind, you take it an extra step because of where you are in the moment. Like I had a situation where somebody said something to me, and I was taken aback. I was like, "Wait." I literally was stopped in my tracks
Mhm.
because they said something and I heard something totally different because of where I was at. It's kind of like it's kind of like the feeling like when somebody talks to you and you're like, let's say you call me and you're really excited about something.
Mhm.
You're on like 10. And then the first thing I say, like, well, why would you do that? Like your mind goes from 100 to zero in less than 60 seconds. You'd be like, I called you because I was excited. And
Mhm.
you just broke all of that. And I don't want to have this conversation no more. And then you and your feelings, all of that type of stuff. And I have been there. So I think now, okay, so for you that are watching, I know that y'all have all taken something the wrong way. But do you have you experienced taking something the wrong way and it ending a relationship, a friendship, a business partnership? You've somebody said something that you didn't understand and you just ran with it and it ended that. Have you experienced that? So Jen, this is my
Mhm.
thing. My thing is I'm in a place right now where I think sometimes people can want a relationship, then you have other people that feel like they need a relationship. And I think it happens when you just you're just ready to take life by the horns. You're ready to just do the dang thing. But but when you deal with other people, you put that vibe on them.
Mhm.
It's like, well, I'm ready to go 100 miles per hour. And everybody you encounter, you put them in a position where it's like, well, they need to go 100 miles per hour too. And I've been there. So this is confessions of the Antoine brotherhood today because I done made some mistakes. And a lot of the mistakes I've made is just because I've got exhausted with the difficult way. I'm like, let's just make this easy.
Yeah.
We're gonna wake up, we're gonna get married tomorrow, just whatever, we'll figure it out and call it a day. Cause I ain't got time, yo. Like I don't know.
I feel you. I mean, both of us are single parents, and it's easy to want to have that person that's there to do teamwork with you. And I think a lot of people, especially in this time, they're more so, how do I want to say it, geared to exploring their options.
Yeah.
Before the internet happened, it was like if you found that one person that you really clicked with, you just stayed with that person.
Yeah.
Now that we have social media, we got Instagram, we got all these dating sites, and you can connect with people from around the world. It's like, well, yes,
Wow.
I have this person and they're decent and they're a lot of what I like on my list. But what if it's almost that fear of missing out type of thing? Like if I settle with this
Man.
person, what if I meet somebody 2, 3 years from now that's better and I missed out on them because I went for this person? But see, the catch to that is we're actually missing out on great people because we're trying to wait for something better to come along. Not saying
That
us, but a lot of
is
people.
now okay. Now my question to that is how long have you been thinking about that? Like, because that's not a jump on the live and just randomly be like, you know what? Dating sucks because of the internet. Like that you done thought about that. You didn't you done had a moment.
You know
What
what?
happened?
I saw a meme and they were saying like, um the reason why our marriages don't last like our grandparents was because if grandma and grandpa had the internet, you know, she would have got rid of Grandpa Earl too. It is true. All this technology has allowed us to see that there's other options, but also it allows us to see our partner's flaws even more. Because if you go on Instagram, especially some of us women, unfortunately, we'll see our boyfriends liking, Meg the Stallion's videos where she's twerking, you
Yeah.
and it causes a lot of people to look at stuff that they normally just would not look at and have you know access to.
Listen.
So yeah.
All right, so I'm going to share this because some people may not know this, so I have to break this down. So there's a thing called snowblind. And you're probably familiar with being snowblind. A lot of people in the South may not be familiar with it. So there's a thing called snowblind where you can be driving in the snow, and because everything is appearing white, you can run into like a snow pile or whatever. My first year living in Wisconsin, uh, I ran into like a big pile of snow. I was like so excited to get off work early. I'm driving and there's snow coming on. My windows are still trying to clear up. And then I was stopped dead in my tracks because I couldn't see the pile. And then, real quick, James says you have to find that one and make a connection and create a solid foundation. He says people that think the grass is greener on the other side, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so I I think the internet has definitely created this thing where there's always something or somebody better.
Mhm.
Now, the funny thing is sometimes we're looking for something better, but we aren't better. So
Very.
it's like, well, okay, I deserve better. Well, you can deserve cake, but that don't mean you need to get some cake. Like, there's a lot of things you could deserve. You deserve to like. Never mind. I ain't gonna go too far down that street. But like, I think we've done that to where we end up comparing uh we used to talk about being photoshopped. We end up comparing these filters to reality. We end up comparing the person that works out every day because they're in depression and the only way not to heal themselves is working out every day. So we see them, oh, they looking super fit. They look well, they if they didn't look fit, they would be dead because they have to work out every day to keep their sanity. So we end up comparing snapshots versus being able to understand the true value of a person that's more than a snapshot.
Right.
Now you can find what looks better, what may create a better experience, and find out. Wait, this person was so much greater on the internet.
Mhm.
This person had this many followers. This person, whatever it is, and it's like, wait, like that the person that I was seeing, that pedestal that they were on, was a cover up for
Yep.
who they really were. And when it comes to the grass being greener, like I walk every day. I've missed like maybe 2 days in the past 4 to 6 weeks, and there's a guy in my neighborhood that waters his grass every day. Like I'm walking, he up at 6 o'clock watering his grass, and I'm walking, and I'm like, bro, like I don't want my grass to be green that bad. Like I'm not waking up to water my grass. Like it's just grass to me. And sometimes we have that mentality when it comes to relationship where for a season it's like, well, it's just grass to me. Then we see the value of somebody else's green grass, and it's like, man, that does look good that their grass is green. It's like, well, your grass would be green if you valued it enough to water it.
Right.
Me, my regular grass, yeah, I get that joker cut, and that's how we do it. Like if you die, you die. And
Right.
that's what's happening in a relationship. We are looking at this green grass all over the internet,
Mhm.
and all while that's happening, we're like, well, our grass could be greener, but we haven't spent time loving it. We haven't spent time talking to it. We've been too busy double clicking everything else versus connecting with the person that we have next to us. And if we don't correct that, if we don't get out of like, if we don't get out of the internet, like relationships are doomed.
Yeah.
It's
And we
gonna
could
be
even apply that to, seasons. Like we're in our single season and we're
yeah,
looking at relationships and marriage like, man, the grass is greener over there. And while there are some great parts about being in a relationship and being married, there's also the fact that you have to become one financially.
Yeah.
You got to deal with that person's bad credit. Or, they got to deal with your bad credit. You know,
Yeah.
there's dirty laundry. You got to deal with their hygiene habits. Whereas
Yeah.
right now, you're just dealing with your own self. You got to make room for somebody else and their flaws as well. So, you know, I think it's a matter of not letting the internet trick us out of where we are and who we're with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy because like uh I don't know if you know the story of Prince. So Prince evidently did a lot for a lot of people. Financially, he gave and gave and gave, but he never wanted it to be seen because of his religious beliefs. So he didn't share millions that he gave to these foundations. It's interesting to me that we live in a world where what you show on the internet depicts who you are. So like you can see somebody doing like you see these wedding videos and all of this type of stuff. Like, oh my God, they on top of the Eiffel Tower getting married. Are they doing this? It's like, yeah, that's great. That's great. But if it was genuine, you may not have to catch it on video. No, not to say there's anything wrong with doing it, but your wedding proposal doesn't need to go viral.
Right.
Because at the end, if it don't work out, that divorce ain't gonna go viral. We want people to know the good. We want them to be so impressed. It's like people that are go to these really fancy hotels, and it's like, oh, you're in this fancy hotel, but the fact of the matter is, it was free because you won something on Instagram. It's like we our reality is so lost, so that because our realities is so skewed, our relationships are so messed up
Yeah. We have
because we compare, and it's creating holes in the relationships.
right. And speaking of, those big over the top proposals, someone once said, people spend all this time planning a wedding, but they don't plan a
The
marriage.
marriage. Yeah.
So they're not thinking about, okay, yeah, this couple, they did this proposal on the beach in the Bahamas and they planned this nice big super wedding, but they're also not thinking about the fact that this couple is starting their marriage out in debt.
Yeah.
Because unless you really rich
Unless
or
you
you got
got
a
it.
rich uncle, somebody put that on a credit card somewhere. And now you're creating arguments at the beginning of your marriage because you got this big old credit card bill to pay and
Yeah.
all these other bills that you got to pay that nobody really thought about when this was all getting planned out. So,
Yeah. And James says it's like you're doing it all for social media.
yeah, it is. It is. People trying to
Yeah.
get a reality TV show deal.
Yeah.
That's just not the way to go.
And it's like, it's so interesting because we we literally are taught not to judge a book by its cover, but there's some serious caveats to it. The fact of the matter is, you create the cover so that you can entice people to read the book.
It's true.
Now, we say don't judge the book by its cover, but if we had a bunch of paperback white books that just had the name on it, some books ain't getting read unless you have an amazing title that attracts people. So for a lot of the people that we're watching, we are judging the quality of who they are based on the cover that we see. But the thing is, the cover in some cases is a facade of a book that may not be worth reading.
Mhm.
And if somebody can get you into the point where they can get you to read their book, like there are people that are so good at getting into relationships, but not being in a relationship. It's like, oh, I'm good at catching a man, I'm good at catching a woman, but it only lasts for like 3 weeks because I'm not really that great of a person. I'm really not what I've paid to be, what I've promoted to be. And that's why it's like, if we can just be authentic with me, I'm in a place where I'm like, yo, I want to just be authentic. I want to be transparent. I want to be free to say, you know what? I'm not going to compare you to anybody on social media. I'm not going to compare you to anybody that I used to be with. because at the end of the day, this ship that we're supposed to be relating in to get where we're going is between us. And if our ship doesn't work, like sometimes the people that's coming to help you with your ship are trying to get in the ship. It's like, wait, so like, and the crazy thing is people talk so much about their relationships to other people that people are now a third party in their relationship.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, if you can't trust and talk to the person that you're with, you need to you need to move on. James said people aren't who they post to be. I like that.
True.
People ain't who they post to be.
That's true.
We
It's
it,
almost like, and I'll make this analogy. It's like the side chick that thinks she'll be a better wife than the wife, not knowing all that the wife has to deal with.
and the thing is, the side chick deals with the the hunter side of the man.
Mhm.
Like he wants to capture you, but he doesn't want to keep you.
Right.
He needs to have access to you for long enough to get what he needs out of it, because he's trying to fill a void that he wouldn't have if he was filling the void that she has.
Thank you.
So she has a void, which causes him to have a void. So now he goes and finds a side chick because he's like, well, emotionally, I'm distraught. So I need somebody to talk to. And my wife won't listen to me, but your wife won't listen to you because you don't talk to her the right way.
Right.
Or your wife won't listen to you because every time you talk, it's coming from left field because you think she's doing something, but you only think she's doing something because you got three side chicks. You got a whole side
Got a
cart
whole
show.
tribe.
You got a whole tribe of side chicks. And these side chicks are like, well, he gonna get out of it. No, he ain't gonna get out of it as long as you can just fill the void
Mhm.
and she do whatever she's doing, he's gonna be fine. And then when he does leave her, he's gonna realize, you know what? She wasn't anything better, or she wasn't anything more than just the side. And then marriages are broken up, the relationships are broken up because we're broken.
Mhm.
We are broken. Like I think I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, we're broken by situations that we never should have been broken by, because we never should have been in. But because we were looking to find a void, we went to somebody that could not be a potter.
Right.
And we looked for them to fix and repair the brokenness that we had, but they couldn't fix it because they are not the potter. So what we have to do in this state is like, hey, we got some goals, and then we're still gonna have holes in this relationship. But in this relationship, we have to figure out how to see God first while still being connected to you. I know people whose marriages are not even on the rocks. They on the I don't know what's worse than the rocks. Like they on the thing after the rocks. Uh, and the challenge is they've gotten so disconnected that it's hard to reconnect. They've gotten so out of sorts with each other that when they try to communicate, and I've been there. I've been to a point where when I was married, my wife at the time would try to communicate something to me, but I'm like, you done broke me down so much already. I can't even hear what you're saying. Like you could be doing it, trying to do it from a loving place, but all I'm hearing at this point is nagging, because everything else, like your voice has just become the sound of like you're doing this is not right, this whatever. So what happens is when people try to correct the communication, correct the issues in relationship, sometimes it's and I hate to say too late, but that's the only word that I have. It's too late because people can't really hear your heart anymore because they're hearing from a place of hurt. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
there's
It's,
a
I mean,
lot
there's
to
so
this.
much to go to this, like, just even with the whole marriage piece, like, why do we marry the people that we marry? You know, instead of
Ooh,
looking
let's talk
at,
about it.
instead of looking at this list of superficial things, because, the whole dating guru community is like, oh, make a list of what you want. And you know what? I found one of my old lists talking about that. Um, I found one of my old lists and I looked at it and I said, you know what? all this stuff is superficial. He's got to be 6'2", and you got to have, this type of job and this type of car and this type of house and this type of personality. But when you really think about your relationships and what broke you up or what
Mm-hmm.
made you leave that person, it wasn't really about the money, unless they were just a bum.
Yeah.
It wasn't about their height. It was about their character. It was about what was on the inside of them. And I think if we focus more about, you know, what our values are, you
Yeah.
know, what can I live with, what's compatible with me, mentally and emotionally, I think we'll have better luck in relationships.
And then that's all so right because I remember in my 20s, I had a list. It was like 100 things on that list. I was like, it was my first iPhone. I think it had notes back then.
Mhm.
And I had my whole list. I was like one, two, and then I don't remember what made me create the list, but like these lists are creating like it's okay to have standards. It's
Mhm.
okay to have expectations, but when you create a list, when you create a list, you are then marking off what's not right about them versus what is.
Mhm.
And some of the things that are right about them, you're going to miss out because your list was too minute, your mind was too minute to really see what you needed. You wanted certain things, and those wants ended up being so superficial, like you said, that it's like, well, I don't want this person because of this, but I will negate everything that is right about them because they didn't match up with something that I wanted that isn't even really a big deal. Especially like this is the thing, marriage is supposed to be together to us part. So some of the things that you're concerned about at 20, when you get to 55, you're gonna be like, ah, that don't matter. Like people are like, hey, I want somebody that'll party up and turn up with me. It's like, yo, by the time you're 45, you're gonna be turned up in the bed at like 9:30. But like, you know what? The turn up is over. So
Right.
you're looking for something that works for you right now, but your vision is so limited that you're gonna marry somebody that's not right for you, and your hindsight 2020 vision is gonna be like, wait, my he ain't my list, or he was my list, but now my desires have changed, and he doesn't match what that is anymore. Well, because you were looking for a list that was so minuscule,
Mhm.
and now you stuck with the person that was good at 20, but at 45, you're like, man, he is not a good father. Like,
Right.
what are you doing? Go wipe the butt. Like he just so so there's that, and then also I was thinking, and I posted in. I have a men's group. I posted this the other day. I was like, and we may not be able to get deeply into this, but it's like, well, I've been in positions where I've been looking from this sign from God to say that she's the one. I'm like, well, God, you're gonna drop an anvil in the middle of the in the ground that says yes. Like we're looking for these signs, and my belief is that it's possible that a lot of people are great for you. It's a lot of people that may be the best match for you. And I believe that God said, hey, I'm gonna put you in position and you have to make a choice. Like like the thing is, we talk about Adam and Eve, Eve was the only option.
True.
It's like, bro, like you can choose that or you can get that donkey over there that you still haven't named. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
So like it was the only choice. So when it comes to the internet, when it comes to all of this type of stuff, I believe like God is saying, hey, you know what? Continue to take my lead in your life, and then when I place the right options in front of you, they will gel with you right. And at the end of the day, because I don't think God wants to be responsible for who you marry. Because when you screw it up, he can be like, hey, I didn't pick her, you picked her. Like I don't know that God wants to take that type of responsibility. Like, well, I told you to marry Sheila, and you married Monique. Now you're getting a divorce. You should have
Right.
listened to me. I don't think God works that way, but I could be wrong.
Said all this the Lord said, and I've had men approach me and tell me, the Lord said you're my wife, and I'm like, which Lord?
Yeah, is it the Lord of Jacob or the
I
Lord of
hear,
Esau? Like
I hear Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Caribbean. Um, and so like I'm in this place where I am redefining and re-understanding some things because we were taught some things or weren't taught some things about relationships that we should have been taught, and then we were taught some things that were just garbage.
Mm,
So now we're searching for answers in people that don't have answers. And you know, it has become a very it has become a very tumultuous situation because we're like a lot of women that I have dealt with in the past, uh, they and you may be this, and I don't know if you've done this, but like when you're dating somebody, have you ever been like, "Well, did the Lord tell you? Has the Lord confirmed this with you?"
I've done that.
Give me your thoughts on this statement. What is what like in that moment? Now let's say that the Lord didn't. Let's go both angles. The Lord did tell him, and the Lord didn't tell him. One guy, the Lord told him, but
Mm-mm.
then you're like, nah, I don't really think the Lord told you. Like, like what is the value of that question?
I think people use that question to try to validate whether they should be in that relationship or not. Because they
Yeah,
have this feeling of, how you have that gut feeling of like, you know what? It looks good, but something within me is telling me it's not as good as it looks. But then you try to get some, strength in numbers. Like, okay, well, if they say the Lord said that maybe
yeah,
I'm tripping, maybe I'm tripping with my feelings of this ain't it.
yeah. And then like I've had moments where okay, so the way God works with me is he works with me in certain areas of my life. And well, he works with me in my life, but there are certain areas that he's very distinctive on. He's very intentional on. In those areas, I can hear him really uniquely. Like when it comes to marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to what God tells me to tell people for marketing, it's like boom. But when it comes to marriage, he ain't mapping it out like that for me. He ain't been like, all right, put this. You're gonna put this web page right here, and she's gonna come through this one. And after she comes to this web page, she's gonna give you a couple of signs. Like he ain't doing that.
There's no
So
marriage funnel.
yeah, there's no marriage funnel. It's like, hey, learn how to get married in 13 days for $27. It's like there is no marriage funnel. There is no marriage marketing that works. So he deals with me. So when it comes to relationships and stuff, and even with people, there are times like God allows me to see through images.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, yesterday I saw an image on Instagram, and I was like, messaged her, and I was like, "Hey, is everything all right?" She was like, "Oh yeah, it's cool." I was like, "Well, cool is not what I'm looking for. Like, is everything all right?" And she explained some more stuff, and I was like, "I said this may be a weird question, but how is your health?" And she's like, there's some challenges because of what's going on. I was like, well, I could tell that some things were going on with your health, and you need to take a vacation. You need to be able to get some time to yourself. So he speaks to me in those moments. Like literally, there have been times where God will allow me to know. God will be like, okay, in third grade, this person had this situation. And I'd be like, okay, and then I'd be like, there's no way. And I'd be like, hey, well, in third grade, did you have a car wreck, or were you in a car? And I'm like, yeah. How did you know that? I was like, I don't know. I just saw car wreck. But when it comes to marriage, there's no there's no. Well, she's gonna walk up. In third grade, she had two toes, and then I delivered her and gave her four toes in fifth grade. Like he don't deal with me that way. So when the question comes, like, well, did God tell you that? No, he didn't tell Adam that either. Like he didn't tell what's the everybody be referencing what's the story in the um what's the story in the Bible with on the she in Ruth. Ruth's
Oh,
name?
Boaz, Ruth and
Boaz.
Boaz.
Like God wasn't like, hey Boaz, check her out. That's your wife.
Right.
Like he saw somebody. He was like, oh, cool. And then he got some history. He did some research, and it was like, okay, this is how we pulling up. James says, for me, God showed me that she was the one for me. It took some time for the confirmation to know that's okay. It's time to be more than friends, than time to put a ring on it. Tyler, what's the good, bro? Yeah, like
I
he
think,
may tell some people like that,
yeah. Well,
but
and it's the part of the story that's often missed is that Naomi gave Ruth instructions on how to position herself to be, you know,
she
wife
was
to
like,
Boaz.
Naomi
She
was
gave her
like, all
some
right, take
strategy.
this. She was like, take this picture, post it in your story. You're gonna turn a little bit to the right, and then he gonna be up in your DMs. Like
Right.
God wasn't like, okay, Naomi. And he might have. We don't have that part of the story. But like when it comes to like my challenge is I don't know if the pursuit of marriage is as mythical and mysterious as we make it.
Mm.
It's like trust God, be led by him. And then even for people that aren't following God in that way, it's like make a good decision. Take some time, understand the person, understand what signs are kind of triggers to you, and see if you can communicate that, and then make the best decision on God's leading. Because I don't like
I
God
mean,
be telling me like, and then the thing is when it comes to how God speaks, sometimes how God speaks sounds like us.
yes.
It's like was I talking to myself or was that Jesus? Can you say it again? And
Right.
then and because our minds run so much. Tyler says it's kind of problematic, but you get the idea. Like it is.
If you think about it, though, think about all the Bible stories that we often refer to, and some of the ones that we don't. You look at Eve, God put her in position in front of
Mhm.
Adam. You look at Isaac, he found Rebecca at the well. She was in position. You look at Ruth, she was in position. I think as women, we're so used to trying to put ourselves into a position
Mhm.
instead of allowing God to lead us to that position where we can be found.
Yeah.
So we're always positioning ourselves and then trying to ask the dude, did the Lord speak to you? Did you hear anything? And they're like,
Yeah.
no, because you're not, it really wasn't your place to put
And
yourself
I
out
can't think, and maybe y'all that are listening, you may have a story where God told a man that a particular woman was his wife. If you know of a story in the Bible, where God tells a man that, hey, this is your wife explicitly, because the thing is, check this out. The angel told Joseph, yo, this lady you about to marry, I just want to let you know she pregnant, but she ain't been doing nothing. She got Jesus in her belly. She ain't been doing nothing, but God sent the angel, but the angel told Joseph, hey, when you pull up next week, she gonna be like 3 weeks pregnant. So that little bump, hey, it's all good. It was me. It was me. Like I can't think of any stories where God is like, hey, this is it. James says men and women both should pray and ask God to prepare them to be a husband or wife. Now, okay, see, this is the thing, James. You can pray to be a husband or a wife, but at the end of the day, how do you know which one? Because like if everybody praying to be a husband and a wife, that means you got 53,000 husbands out there and 53,000 wives out there, and then they're just like, let me double click on this piece, see if she pays attention. Oh, she paid attention, so she's my wife. Like, how do you fleece God for your spouse? And then for you that don't know what fleecing is, just a quick thought on fleecing. Fleecing is essentially testing God, saying, "Hey, well, God, if this happens, I know this is a sign for you. If this happens, I know it's a sign for you." So that's fleecing. Tyler says he that findeth the wife findeth a good thing. And I love this scripture.
yeah.
I absolutely love the scripture. But in all of our finding, we find a lot of good things. So now, how do we know that we found a wife versus just a good thing? Now,
Right.
and then the good thing can be like, hey, that looks good to me. That's good to me. But how do you find a wife? How do you identify a wife? And I know I got a whole bunch of questions. Tiffany says, that's what I was about to say. Wait for the confirmation. Y'all talking a lot about this confirmation,
Right.
but this is the thing. The okay, did God confirm, and how did He confirm the job that you're on? Did God confirm, and how did He confirm that you should have this person as your baby mama or your baby daddy? Like we talk about confirmation on a lot of stuff. Did He confirm for you to post that status on Facebook? Like we talk about a lot of confirmations, but the one that's supposed to be to death do us part. Like if God ain't been confirming stuff in your life up to now, why He just gonna pop up and confirm marriage, which is supposed to be the life? Like he done. Oh, God gave me this new job, and then you get fired 2 weeks from now. It's like, well, God said it was my job. Tiffany
No,
said,
it was a
wait
huge.
and wait some more. If it's the right person, they'll be worth the wait. All right, let me tell you about this waiting. Let me tell you about this waiting. I believe in waiting. I believe in being patient. I believe in following the leading of God. Now, sometimes you waiting for something that God ain't gonna confirm. So you sitting around waiting, and you're like, oh well, I'm just waiting on God. And He's like, well, you waiting over by the bush, but you're supposed to be waiting over by the tree because the wife is over or the husband is over by the tree, but you by the bush. So when it comes, like Jennifer said earlier, being in position, literally being in position, I think is being prayerful, kind of like James says, being prayerful. The God can make you the husband that you're supposed to be when that wife appears, or vice versa. But I think there's a process that we're missing.
You
I
know what?
think that I understand the wait is hard. I'd rather wait than be the one of these horror stories out here. Well, wait, baby.
True. That's true. But you know what? I'm finding this because I just turned 36 about a month or two ago.
Happy birthday.
Hey, thank you.
Did I say happy birthday for you
Yes, you
previous?
did. You did.
Okay.
On time.
Okay. I just got to make sure.
But what I'm finding at 36 versus when I was really searching for marriage at 25 is that my priorities are different. My thought process is different. I'm different. And
Yeah.
discovering more of myself, like who I actually am, my core purpose, has changed how I even look at relationships. Like what I used to want when I was 25, now I'm 36, 2 kids later, one divorce later, I'm like, okay, that's really not important. And
Yeah.
I'm learning too, and this is what we skip in church. We don't teach people the value of friendships.
Mm.
We don't like it's
We
almost
used to
like
teach the value of courtship, but never friendship.
never friendship. It's almost like friendship is like, oh, I'm in the friend zone. I can't be. Maybe your husband is your bro that you keep broing
Hmm.
because you broed him.
Yeah.
So, we need to open ourselves up to the idea of, you know what, I don't have to go and date and conjure up a prophetic word to find a husband or a wife. I can just build friendships. And then whatever friendship leads to, romance and really building together, go with that. I think we
Yeah.
make I think we just make this too mystical
It,
and
it, it's a
unnecessary.
pain in the whole neck. Like I think every person dating should have a personal chiropractor, because after you go through the dating process, you be like, I need this backside cracked. I need this. I need some. I got some extra air over here. Naya said, actually, let's go back. Tiffany said, right, if we can't be friends, we can't be lovers. Naya says, yes, friendship is so important. James says, my. Uh, because this is my thing. Like, I think my failure is that I want things to be too easy because I've had difficult. And if it like and then I think sometimes you have these wounds. It's like when you fell off a bike and then next time you fall off a bike, let's say you fell off a bike near a tree. So now you only ride bikes where there's no trees because you're like, you know what, that tree tried to take me out. No, it wasn't the tree. It was your raggedy bike driving skills. You gotta drive better. You weren't paying attention. So I think sometimes when I see difficulty, I'll be like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just go to the chiropractor real quick and get this get this taken care of
Right.
because it just is what it is.
Yeah. And I think too, we take a lot of our old relationships with us into the new one. Even though we think that we're good, we end up being like, Erica Badu bag lady, you know,
Wow.
carrying a bunch of
Ooh.
bags.
Let's talk about the bag. Let's get Tyler's question or his statements. Really, he says, "How is their relationship to God and his family? How's the relationship with the friends and family? Will God, their family, and friends have the same things to say about them in the close? Like, I don't know if y'all. I did a session. I don't know if that was. I think last week. Did I talk about data?
Yeah,
I
you did.
talked, I talked a little bit about data last week, and I think the week before, because in the dating, I called the dating the data stage, where you're collecting information, and I feel like in the dating stage, you gotta have your surveys ready. Don't go overboard, but you gotta know if they how many buttons they gonna push, how much stuff. So when you were talking about the bags,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, we have placed bags on just women, but men have bags as well, and probably more than women sometimes. So my pastor back at Cornelia in Arlington, he preached a message where he was talking about how people have bags, and he says what happens is it's like oftentimes these bags he had like little gifts, and he has the person walk on the stage and they had these gifts behind their back, but these gifts were their issue. So it was like these two people are dating. They both have these gifts behind their back. So he like pulls out a small box. Okay, I have an issue with this. Okay, my credit is bad. And then like all of a sudden the big box. Oh, I got 3 kids and 2 ex-husbands. And then so what happened was he was sharing how people bring their bags and then they put them in the hands of the other person, but that person that you're married is not or marrying is not responsible for your bags. God ordained that person to be with you, and that person has to. I see your bags, and I raise them up to God.
Right.
Because when you become the person that says, because everybody's gonna have bags, everybody's gonna have their gifts behind their backs, everybody's gonna have their struggles, and you have to say, well, I can't possess your bag and my bag. But in this marriage, I'm going to lift your bags up to God. I'm going to be there for you, but I'm not going to take on your luggage
Right.
because that becomes too much of a weight for me to bear. And now we're not married. We're like gift partners. We're like, I like lime. Here you go.
Secret
And
Santa.
now, mhm.
Secret Santas.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
got a new gift every day. It's like,
right.
wait, your feet smell like what? Lift it, lift it up, uh, lift it up to God.
Right.
And so I think what happens is we have to shift our thinking, and we have to go through a process that helps us to understand, what relationships looks like, what love looks like, what being in love is versus loving someone. How do you know when that happens? Like there's just so much we don't know. It's like, hey, this person made me smile and they made me laugh. Cool. We're booed up now,
Yeah.
and there's more to that. But I've
Yeah.
been on for an hour,
I know. But
and
one last thing. I just think we do
mhm,
it backwards. It's like
mhm,
we date and then we try to become friends versus
yeah.
to be friends and then move to dating. So I mean I'm stuck on that. That's me in my life
Yeah,
right now. Like if you cannot, because you think about it, your marriage the honeymoon stage is only going to last for so long.
Yeah.
And really, you talk to older couples that have been married for 40 years and 50 years, they will tell you, I am friends with my spouse. They're
Yeah.
my best friend. They know everything, they know how to deal with me. And if it's not for that, we wouldn't be, lasting for this long. So I
Yeah.
think in our generation, we've bought into, the soap operas and the TV shows and the movies so much that we have not taken that reality of, wait a minute, I just
Yeah.
can't.
Them soap operas started it.
It really did, you
And
know.
then so James says, and both sides have to be open and willing to present the baggage and not keeping it hidden. Um, and Tiffany says, "True, dating way too soon." But I think and we can talk about this another time. But I think there is this friend zone fear, and that's what I'm going to name it: friend zone fear. Let me take
Right, write it
let
down.
me take a note. Friend zone fear. Actually, I'm gonna talk about that next week. Friend zone fear.
Yeah, that'll
I
be
have
good.
to take notes of all this stuff. But anywho, I thank y'all for watching. If you have watched, um, just um, today is Wednesday. You know what? I'm gonna go on to pay for somebody's lunch today. Drop your cash app if you're watching. Drop your cash app. I'm gonna pay for somebody's lunch today. Um, and yeah, whoever, if you don't get any money in your cash app, it wasn't you. I'm not gonna post it on. I'm not gonna post it online. I'm not gonna do all of that stuff. Like if you post your cash app and I choose you, uh, then you will see it in your cash app. If you don't, it just didn't happen. And we're about to roll out. Tyler has another question. What are the difference between the boundaries of dating, and just friends? I like that.
That's
Like,
a good one.
so I'll answer part of that real quickly. Uh, when you are friends with somebody, imagine imagine what you would say and wouldn't say to your friend that's of the same sex. Would you ask your homeboy for a picture of him for your screen? Would you ask your homeboy for what, like, if you wouldn't ask your homeboy or you wouldn't ask your homegirl the question, that breaks the friend line. So the boundary is, if you're being friends, treat it like friendship.
Mhm.
Stop trying to date your friend versus uh, versus just connecting to your friend. So if you ain't gonna ask your homeboy, if you ain't gonna go on your homeboy's story and be like, "Yo, that picture fire," don't do it to her. Like, be like, "Hey, friend, great picture." Don't be, just don't do stuff. And it's hard because in your mind you're like, I don't want to be. We're gonna talk about friend zone later. But
Yeah.
that's I got principals. Actually, I've had two principals walk by, and I think I'm supposed to be doing something of importance. So I'm about to get off.
You better go.
All right, I'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
Peace.